other Ferguson activists who have been found dead over the last several years. Danye Joshua was found in his car, shot dead and lit on fire. Unresolved case. Darren Seals was found in his car, shot dead and lit on fire. Also unsolved. Edward Crawford, the subject of an iconic protest photo. And that is the protest photo, you might remember, of the brother who was in Ferguson who grabbed one of the bombs. He was throwing it back. Well, he died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Now, cops say suicide. In that case, family says it was an accident. So what is going on there in Ferguson right now? Let's go to Missouri State Senator Maria Chappelle-Nadal, who joins us right now. And all right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. Hey, folks, if you're looking for a hot new investment opportunity, I have two things I want you to think about: illegal marijuana and crowdfunding. Now, you just let that sink in for a second. Our friends at Transatlantic Real Estate have created a unique opportunity for everyday investors like you to get in the game for a minimum of $300 or $10,000, $50,000, or even $100,000. You can get in where you want to fit in. Now, typically, it takes millions, if not billions, to invest in the legal marijuana industry, and it can be pretty risky trying to establish market share. However, Transatlantic Real Estate is taking a different approach. They buy the land that supports marijuana grow operations and lease it to licensed, high-paying tenants. Now, imagine being a landlord to a licensed marijuana farm. With the prospects of further legalization and changing public perceptions about marijuana, some investors could end up making serious money over the next several years. The best part is they are using crowdfunding so you can get in now before they take the company public. If you want to find out more, go to marijuanastock.org. That's marijuanastock.org to get in now. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video. Senator Chappelle-Nadal, again, for cops to say two guys shot in the car, burned, unsolved. I mean, come on. I don't know too many cases where individuals are burned in their cars and shot, and then both of them were protesters and activists there in Ferguson.
That's exactly right, Martin. I got to tell you that people are on edge here in St. Louis because time and time again, there are people who have been identified as protesters, as activists, and really the environment that we are in is very dangerous. And nothing has changed since 2014, to be quite honest. And there are a lot of people who are in our system politically and otherwise who don't really care about what is going on and want to cover up the reality of our situation when it comes to race relations and equity and systematic racism. And in my gut, I believe that we are dealing with a community and people who live in the state who want to shut us down and quiet us so that we are not vocal. And the experience that I've had as a state senator, I've seen time and time again a lot of people who have just been trying to get through the system, and for one reason or another, they've not been able to do that. There's a great example of an African-American woman who was in the St. Louis County Police Department, who left the police department. She had amazing scores, but she was the victim of not only sexual harassment, but also racism within the department. And so I feel as though, and I'm speaking as an elected official, I'm speaking as a woman, I'm speaking as a person of color, I truly believe that there is an effort to shut people down if that means the death of a loved one. That is what happens. I've
got to ask you this here. Is state police involved? Has anybody demanded that the Attorney General appoint a special prosecutor? I mean, first, we're relying on local police. Clearly, that's an issue here. Has any of that happened?
Well, that's the irony about this, Martin. First of all, we have an election coming up. And you would think this situation with Melissa, her son, if you look at his Facebook page, he was totally positive. He had a 2-year-old son. Totally positive. He had his own business, as she mentioned. And there is no indication whatsoever that he had any kind of depression, anything like that, because everything about his being was positive. And so that's why I'm trying to figure out, why isn't the ACLU involved in this? Why isn't the Southern Poverty Law Center involved in this? Does this have anything to do with the election that we have coming up on Tuesday? And I'm telling you, I've seen the other side, and I can tell you that in my gut, I feel that there is an effort to quiet this situation, this travesty down because of the election. The more our voices are heard before Tuesday, that is going to make an impact on what happens. And that's, I just don't understand it, because usually we would have the Defamation League involved in this, and we don't.
Let me ask you this question. You talk about the election. I want to switch gears here. First of all, this is a story that we certainly will continue to cover to try to get more answers. But I got to ask you, you spoke of the election. There's been this back and forth between you and Missouri Senator Claire McCaskill in a tight race there, trying to hold on to her seat. She put out a radio ad talking about crazed Democrats, and she went on Fox News and specifically named you. You fired back at her as well. I'm just trying to understand, if you were a United States Senator in one tough race, and Trump is coming to town, you need as many black votes as possible. What the hell is Claire McCaskill doing?
Well, let me just tell you, this week in our daily paper, she said it was the Kavanaugh protesters who were yelling at different senators. She said that. And then she said that it was Bernie Sanders and people like Elizabeth Warren. And then a day later, she said it was me on Fox News. This woman, if you can call her that, is an opportunist. She is willing to give up everything of value to the Democratic Party for her win. This radio ad is only played in rural Missouri, and we want to know, all of us want to know, is she talking about African Americans? Is she talking about the LGBT community? Is she talking about protesters? And so when she called me out specifically, she's talking about a group of people who are progressive people. And so right now, the community that I represent, we're making T-shirts that say "Crazy Democrats" because most of us are going to be voting against her. She has not had a relationship with the black community for a very long time. She decided to have an office in Ferguson just because it seems sexy. But let me tell you, she has not been in the black community. And I urge every single African American and every single woke other person in the state of Missouri to reconsider their vote for Claire McCaskill. And here's the word on the street. And let me just tell you this. People say, well, it's better to vote for the devil that you know, but why do you have to vote for a devil at all?
Good point. Senator Maria Chappelle-Nadal, we certainly appreciate it. Thank you so very much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Martin.